Sit down quick.
How you think I'm doing?
Sit, the brothers are here.
Doing this too?
Nah. Sit down quick, Joe.
Joe Frazier was Philadelphia's toughest export, a relentless warrior whose punishing left hook and granite determination
there. A left that missed, another right that connected. Down goes Allen.
Smokin' Joe earned everything through blood, sweat, and sacrifice while representing the working-class values that built America's toughest cities. But his blue-collar authenticity attracted enemies who despised his gritty approach to championship competition.
Joe is coming out at him, wants to come back in a hurry. You'll not find a gamer man than Joe Frazier.
Frazier came from poverty in South Carolina before finding his destiny in Philadelphia's brutal boxing gyms, where survival meant outworking everyone around you. He never backed down from anyone, never made excuses for defeats, and never forgot the people who helped him climb from nothing to heavyweight glory. Some opponents mocked Frazier's simple background and straightforward fighting style, suggesting that educated fighters with superior intellect could easily outmaneuver someone they considered a primitive brawler. Others attacked his character through racial slurs and political accusations that wounded him deeper than any physical punishment. Frazier's resentments ran deeper than competitive rivalry because they touched his core identity as a proud American who had served his country while others fled to avoid military service. The attacks weren't just about boxing ability, they were assaults on his dignity and everything he represented. These weren't temporary disagreements that faded with time and distance. Frazier carried bitter grudges until his death, never forgiving opponents who had crossed lines that shouldn't be crossed between warriors who respected each other's courage and dedication. We're revealing 6 fighters who pushed Joe Frazier beyond forgiveness and learned that Philadelphia's toughest son never forgot an insult or forgave a betrayal of boxing's fundamental honor codes. 6. Jerry Quarry. Starting at number 6 is Jerry Quarry, the California heavyweight whose media darling status and promotional advantages infuriated Frazier throughout their parallel careers in boxing's most competitive era. Quarry represented everything Frazier despised about boxing politics favoring certain fighters over others, based on factors beyond ring accomplishments. The resentment began when Quarry received magazine covers, television specials, and promotional campaigns that Frazier felt should have been distributed based on actual boxing achievements rather than marketability and ethnic appeal to certain demographic groups. Frazier watched Quarry get opportunities and recognition that seemed unearned compared to his own grinding journey through boxing's toughest neighborhoods and most dangerous opponents. The disparity in treatment reflected broader issues about which fighters deserved championship opportunities. Their encounters became personal because Frazier viewed Quarry as someone who had received unearned advantages, while he had scratched and clawed for every opportunity in a sport that rarely rewarded pure heart and determination over political connections. Training camp preparation took on added significance as Frazier focused on proving that authentic toughness would always defeat manufactured hype when tested under championship pressure and genuine adversity. The rivalry represented broader cultural tensions about which type of fighter deserved respect from boxing fans who appreciated different aspects of heavyweight competition and athletic achievement. 5. Floyd Patterson. At number 5 is Floyd Patterson, the former heavyweight champion whose intellectual approach to boxing and psychological complexities irritated Frazier's straightforward mentality and working-class sensibilities about what made a real fighter in heavyweight boxing's unforgiving environment. Patterson represented everything Frazier couldn't understand about modern boxing with his introspective personality, analytical fighting style, and tendency to overthink situations that required instinctive reactions and warrior mentality rather than intellectual analysis. The generational conflict intensified when Patterson started giving interviews about boxing psychology and mental preparation techniques that seemed foreign to Frazier's blue-collar approach of simply outworking opponents through superior conditioning and relentless pressure. Frazier viewed Patterson's comeback attempts and continued involvement in heavyweight politics as attention-seeking behavior from someone whose best years were finished but who couldn't accept diminished relevance in boxing's evolving landscape. Their philosophical differences about fighting reflected broader cultural gaps between intellectual approaches to athletics and traditional working-class values that emphasized toughness, sacrifice, and straightforward competition without psychological complications. Patterson's association with civil rights causes and political activism also created tension with Frazier's more conservative social views and focus on boxing achievement rather than broader cultural movements and social justice issues. Frazier respected Patterson's past accomplishments, but resented his continued presence in heavyweight discussions when younger, hungrier fighters deserved attention and opportunities that were being monopolized by aging former champions seeking relevance. Number 4 brings us George Foreman, the intimidating puncher whose overwhelming physical advantages and effortless victories created deep resentment in Frazier, who had earned everything through maximum effort and painful sacrifice while watching Foreman coast on natural gifts. The contrast between their paths to heavyweight prominence couldn't have been starker, as Frazier ground out victories through superior conditioning and heart, while Foreman destroyed opponents with minimal apparent effort and training commitment. Frazier resented how easily success came to Foreman compared to his own brutal journey through boxing's toughest competition and most demanding preparation routines. The younger fighter seemed to take his advantages for granted, while Frazier had maximized limited natural ability through obsessive dedication. Their eventual championship encounter represented more than just heavyweight competition for Frazier. It was his opportunity to prove that heart and preparation could overcome superior physical gifts when properly applied through disciplined training and strategic planning. The devastating loss to Foreman represented the cruelest possible outcome, as Frazier's life's work was dismissed by someone who had never experienced real adversity or understood the sacrifice required to reach championship level through pure determination. At number 3 is Larry Holmes, the jab specialist whose systematic dismantling of Frazier's legacy through superior technique and youthful advantages created lasting bitterness between two Philadelphia fighters who should have supported each other against outside competition. Holmes represented the new generation of heavyweights who possessed superior boxing skills and physical conditioning compared to Frazier's era, making their encounters seem one-sided demonstrations of athletic evolution rather than competitive fights. The geographic connection made their rivalry particularly painful for Frazier, as Holmes claimed Philadelphia's heavyweight throne while showing little respect for the man who had established the city's boxing reputation through international championship success. Frazier watched Holmes receive recognition and financial rewards that exceeded his own peak earnings, despite inferior heart and determination compared to the sacrifice required during boxing's more demanding previous era. Their professional encounters became exercises in frustration, as Holmes used superior reach and technical ability to neutralize Frazier's pressure fighting while making his aggressive style appear outdated and ineffective against modern boxing techniques. The personal animosity deepened when Holmes started claiming Philadelphia's boxing legacy as his own achievement, rather than acknowledging his debt to Frazier's pioneering role in establishing the city's heavyweight tradition and international boxing reputation. 2. Ken Norton. Number 2 is Ken Norton, the Marine whose technical boxing style and controversial decision victories over mutual opponents created professional jealousy and personal resentment that consumed Frazier throughout their overlapping championship careers. Norton represented everything that frustrated Frazier about modern heavyweight boxing, with his methodical approach and emphasis on winning rounds rather than seeking decisive finishes through aggressive pressure and knockout power. The comparison between their styles became a constant source of media debate as boxing writers argued about which approach was more effective in determining legitimate heavyweight supremacy and championship credentials. Frazier resented Norton's ability to achieve championship recognition through decision victories, while he had earned his reputation through devastating knockouts and definitive conclusions that left no doubt about superior fighting ability. Their mutual encounters with Ali created additional tension, as Norton's success against their common opponent seemed to diminish Frazier's own achievements while elevating someone Frazier considered a less complete fighter. Frazier viewed Norton as someone who had achieved unearned success through fortunate circumstances and favorable judging rather than legitimate superiority in heavyweight boxing's most demanding tests of character and ability. 1. Muhammad Ali. And finally, at number 1, the most painful and complex hatred of all, Muhammad Ali, the man whose cruel psychological warfare and systematic humiliation campaign destroyed Frazier's dignity while stealing credit for achievements that belonged to both men equally. The relationship began with mutual respect, as two undefeated champions prepared for boxing history's most anticipated heavyweight encounter. But Ali's pre-fight tactics revealed a cruel streak that went far beyond acceptable promotional behavior. Ali's verbal attacks weren't just competitive trash talk, they were calculated assaults on Frazier's character, intelligence, and racial identity designed to create psychological damage that extended far beyond their professional rivalry. The Uncle Tom accusations wounded Frazier deeper than any physical punishment because they attacked his integrity and suggested betrayal of his own people for supporting American values and military service during controversial political times. Frazier's victory in their first encounter should have established him as heavyweight boxing's authentic champion, but Ali's media relationships and promotional genius allowed him to minimize the defeat while maintaining his status as boxing's most significant figure. The psychological warfare continued throughout their trilogy as Ali used every platform to humiliate someone who had proven superior in honest competition but lacked the verbal skills and media savvy to defend himself effectively. From working-class pride to championship heartbreak, Joe Frazier's hatred ran as deep as his left hook. Which betrayal cut deepest? Subscribe for more Smokin' Joe secrets.